Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde. Hello, my loves. We are continuing this 3-part podcast series with my beautiful friend and co-host, the mystical mindset coach, Kristine Freelund. So we are going to continue where we left off from last week. Enjoy. Well, you can't be sitting, the fucker ain't gonna knock at your door when it could, but for the most part, if you're staying in your house and you're not doing anything.
Well, that's the live your life piece, though. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell my clients all the time is like, yeah, it's that if when program, right? When I have the boyfriend, I'll go on the Mediterranean cruise. Why are you waiting? Go
Oh,
on.
yeah, you can't do that. I do things all the time by myself. I'm like, I ain't
Yeah.
waiting.
And I think that's the key is when you, because that's when you're vibing the highest,
Yeah.
right? You're doing a hobby, you're doing a skill, you're doing something that you love doing. And
Right.
that's when you're also your shiniest, most brilliant self, right? So why not meet someone that has that thread of commonality? Like instead of having the what's your favorite color and what foods do you like conversation.
I never
Right?
asked
I
those
should have known
questions.
with the last one. I have food sensitivities. And it apparently put him over the edge. It was just too much for him to try and plan somewhere to go to dinner because apparently Googling gluten-free menu was, I don't know, his thumbs didn't work, right? Like, it was like, well, you should know. Like, no, bro, you've lived here your entire life. You gotta know these different pieces. And yeah, to be fair, there was like one conversation where he called and he was super excited because he was at a place getting enchiladas. He was like, they have a gluten-free menu, we can go here. So I know it was coming to the forefront, like, but it was like pulling teeth with him. And I guarantee the thread of commonality between us is very, very slim.
Yeah.
I want to go to art museums, right? We both love live music, but he has really shitty taste in music. The
What
concert,
attracted you to him?
his eyes, his soul.
Oh my God, me too. It's always the damn eyes and soul.
And I had seen him on Bumble before I started dating the guy before. It was approximately Christmas time. I had COVID. I was on the couch and no, 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 that wasn't when. I was swiping. I was on my couch in Goodyear and his little face popped up with his cowboy hat on. And I was like, this guy's cute. And I went to swipe and I dropped my phone and it swiped the wrong way. And I was on the free app. I wasn't going to pay, so you couldn't go back. And it was then I went through an entire failed relationship with someone else. And I got the email from Match that said, oh, your subscription, you have 1 week left. And I thought, fuck it, I'll just go on. And he was the first person to show up. And I took it as a sign, I took it as fate. And so I swiped and I immediately messaged him and I said, I remember seeing you over a year ago. And I meant to swipe and have a conversation with you. And I'm not going to let that opportunity pass. And he said,
You
can
just
I take you to
described a karmic relationship.
right? And he said, can I take you to dinner? That was it. So our conversation was in person, right? He was a FaceTimer, like everything, like I said, he showed up as the perfect gentleman for the first 60 days or so. Like everything he did was right. Everything he did was right, which should have been a giant red flag. But here I was, like I was dreaming of a wedding and everything else. You
Yeah.
know, he was using the we, he was building our future, he was talking about our house, and I fell hook, line, and sinker for it. And then same thing, I got the everything was fine, and then one day it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it
It's
was just
such a
like,
gut punch.
oh God, my reality. You want to talk about cognitive dissonance? I have been through a divorce with a man that I still to this day think the world of, right? This broke me. I couldn't eat, I couldn't clean, I couldn't function. I was trying to show up to my coaching clients and I did. But I mean, the rest of the time I was literally, what is it called? I was like catatonic.
Yeah.
I was literally like, I couldn't even move. I would sit on my floor because I was so uncomfortable in everything. And I would just stare off into space and dissociate for hours because I couldn't figure out. And of course, at that time, I was like, what did I do wrong? How did
Oh,
I scare him away?
I did the same
How
thing.
was I too much? Right? Yeah.
You go back and you replay every conversation, every text message, every I did. And I'm like, what? And I kept looking because I have sabotaged a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
went back and I was like, it wasn't me. I did not do anything. And I look back and I think about that Wednesday and even going in when I was driving in from his house to North Carolina, the second day of driving, I kept having like these horrible visions of just this darkness and this loss and everything. And I was like, I don't, it wasn't about him. It was about someone else, but this energy was consuming me. And then when Wednesday came, it was literally like out of the blue. It just like popped in like him and I aren't okay. Like something's wrong. And I know now it was a premonition. I knew what was about to come. And I don't know, it's just like you look back and I look back and I'm like, no, I did not. I wasn't too much. I was being the same person I had been the whole time. I never hid anything from him. I was exactly who I am. He knew everything about me. So I was like, I don't get it. And that's when I was like, this, it's not really him sabotaging either. Like he literally went into a freeze state and just shut everything off.
Mine went into an old wound state. I think he chose drugs and women over.
Did he do drugs?
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's
And
in
it
it
got
for the
too
quick
serious.
high.
So he ran. And then I think he was ashamed. And then he came back. And my dumb ass was like, he really wanted to meet. He invited me to his son's football game. And he gave the whole spiel of, I know I can't just walk back into your life, but I have such clarity. And he went out and got a dozen roses. I have his son with me. And I remember just being like, what's going on? Like, why am I even talking to this man? And he grabbed me in the kitchen. He looked me dead in the eye, dead in the eye. And I have a good memory. And he said, you are the woman I'm going to marry, and I am in love with you. And he kissed me,
It sounds like a movie.
fell right back into it. And I was like, we still have a lot to talk about. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's like, I'm going to take you to dinner on Monday. I'm dropping my son off. Um, and he showed up Monday. I'd had one hell of a day. I wasn't ready yet. And he grabbed me by the hands, looked me dead in the eye, and said, I'm not ready. I don't want this.
My question would be like, what happened? What changed? That's always my question. I don't always get the answer, but I'm like, what
Remember the
changed?
parts integration?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Jekyll and Hyde. Um,
Yeah.
I think it was someone I think he was heavily into. And I'm not saying he was a drug addict. When I use the term addiction, addiction goes in many different directions. Workaholics are addicts.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
People that work out too much are addicts. Addiction is a state of mind.
Hmm.
He was addicted into this trauma idea that freedom equaled not having a girlfriend, and that having a girlfriend or anything even more than a girlfriend was a threat to his freedom, was a threat to him. And he had so much animosity towards his ex-wife at that time
How
too.
does someone like that even get married?
That's what I don't understand, man. And I never got to talk with her. And I also don't necessarily believe a lot of what he told me about, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but more than likely, yeah, he showed up. I think maybe I'm not going to speculate. I have lots of stories that I'll talk about offline, but I think, have you ever read that book, the Children of Emotionally Immature Parents or whatever?
No.
Okay. Yeah. You want to talk about someone that hates their life and like feels trapped? I think that's the individual. I think that's the box that I would put him in, is someone that feels
Well, he's
trapped.
going to project that onto any woman then.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's relationships. I will always say this, like we aren't meant to be here alone. We're not meant to do this journey alone. And I think romantic relationships are the most healing thing that we can do
Mhm.
because it exposes our shadows in a way that friendships and family cannot. Because you open up a different level of you, a different part of you, a different part of your intimacy. You let somebody into a part of you that you don't necessarily do to your family or your friends. And
Absolutely.
so, yes, I've gone through my phase of I don't need a man and I'm independent and whatever. And I am independent and I don't need a man, but I sure as hell want one. And I'm meant to be a wife. I love being a wife. And that doesn't mean I have to actually have a piece of paper, you know? It means that I'm in union with somebody. I'm in ceremony. I'm committed to somebody. But I think it is an excuse and a wound when you say you don't, and when you say I don't need a man and you don't put yourself out there to or open yourself up, I should say, not necessarily put yourself out there, but you don't open yourself up. I feel like that's a wound and you're closed off because you're afraid. And that's okay. That's where you are. But I believe romantic relationships are it. And that's why I have such a hard time. I have a love-hate relationship with the dating game. Like my life was going super well. In January, like I was at the lowest low I had been at in a long time. I had no money. My business was barely like being rebuilt. And I had all this time on my hands. And I just said, and I have a whole podcast, so I won't go, on this, so I won't go too deep, but I was like, I'm going to use this time wisely. I'm just going to rewire myself. And I did. And I shifted everything. And I took action as if I acted as if I stayed in um, the assumption of the end. I took action from the assumption of the end, and it worked. And that's why I did that program. And I stuck in that. And then, so here I am, like mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, even my stability, like all those things were good. And what is it? Time, relationships, money.
Health
What
career.
are, what is the other one?
Time, money, health, relationships, and
Yeah.
then I added in career.
So the three the three out of the four were good, right? And so I didn't even put on my bingo card this year I wanted a relationship. It wasn't even on my radar. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, everything's pretty good and stable. Let's throw our hat in the dating ring and see what happens. And it's like, okay, this is where we're going to show you your instabilities. And sure as fuck did it not. I mean, it did, you know. But at the same time, here's what dating has done for me. It's allowed me to get to know myself over and over and over again at new levels and new depths. Because I'm not someone who asks these little fucking surface questions. What's your favorite color? What do you like to eat? Fuck that shit. I will ask deep questions and they will ask me the same in return. And so on a constant basis when I'm dating, I'm always being asked these questions and I'm reevaluating and getting to know myself. Do I still resonate with this? Is this something I still believe about
Right.
myself or what I still want? And that's been the cool part is it's really allowed me not just to meet people and get to know people and appreciate that little time we had together because I feel like there's value in everything, right? A reason, season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
But it's allowed me to get more in depth to myself. I
I
kind of went off on
fully
a
agree with
tangent, but
that. No, I mean, it's right on point, right? Because it is. I think there's so many of us that have told or heard from particular clients and stuff, like clients, coaches, man, words, man.
hmm?
Um, that we need to heal before we date. And I definitely think, yes, we have to take stock. We have to reevaluate. We have to be responsible for how we show up.
You need to be on
But
the path.
I think for me, I'll tell you, if I am hiding right now. I am licking some wounds.
And that's okay to be there.
and I'll own that. But if I stay here, and I shouldn't say if, yeah, if, but where my life is right now, a man, if he came in, he would literally, what is that Taylor Swift song? My my reputation's never been worse, so you must like me for me.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, right? The finances are not rolling in. I don't have my own place in this present moment. Like they would really have to love me for who I am and almost date like a woman. They'd have to be like, and I see your potential, babe, which men don't typically do, right? So
But you know what's beautiful about this? Because I'm right with you. Like I don't have my own place. I share, I pay rent, but I live with other people.
mhm,
My business is not in this moment as high as it was earlier this year. Like there are those things. But do you know what my wound is in relationship? Is I've always been needed, not wanted. This is the first time in my life I have nothing to fucking offer you but me.
mm. And I can remember the guy that you met actually said that to me. I want you to want me, not need me. And I was like, what the fuck are you contributing where I actually need you?
Yes.
Like, not to be rude, but like you don't show up for me emotionally. You're
Yeah.
not paying my motherfucking bills. Like, what do you think you're bringing here?
Yeah.
That's when I was like, this man is so deep in his feminine energy. Like, I don't, yeah.
He really was. I was shocked because I feel like you would be with a more masculine man than that.
And that's what it's time for.
Yeah.
But right now I'm hiding because and it's like I feel like I'm walking a tightrope because when my business picks up and when I become successful, I think it's going to be very easy for me to swing over into the I don't need no man energy. I think it's going to be very easy for that
Yeah.
because
You will be way more choosy with who you allow
I think
into your
I'm
reality.
already there though.
Yeah,
It's
me
like
too.
I am I, I don't know what it is. I don't feel gorgeous, but I can't go out right now without men literally stopping in their tracks and telling me I'm beautiful. And I just immediately am like, go the fuck away. Leave me alone. Like I don't want to talk to you.
Well, you're so detached. That's why you're a magnet now because you're detached from it.
It's insane. And when I tell you, this man that I was dating knew the situation I was in, not once invited me to live with him. I can't tell you how many men that are good friends or barely know me have offered me a place to stay for free for as long as I need.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? But yeah, back to the dating piece. Like I'm gonna tell you I'm open and you can hear it in my voice. Like,
You're not.
I'm not right now.
No.
I'm not. Like I could he would have to literally come in and be like, "No, I want to support you in every way."
But I did that. I did when I got divorced, I spent 2 years. I didn't even attempt to date. I believe that there is however long you've been in the relationship, there is a certain amount of time you should be alone doing the work to heal.
There it is.
And if I meet a guy online or in person and he's like, one, I'm either not divorced yet or I just got out of a relationship 3 months ago, but I'm good. I'm like, no, you're not, bro. And I don't care if you think you're good. I know you're not.
Right?
Like I know, and I actually had that. I was a guy that had hit me up and we started talking, and it's one of the first questions I asked is like, how long have you been single? And I think he said only a couple of months. I said, well, how long was the relationship? And he said like 7 years. And I was like, I can't, this is not working for me.
Do you believe that people can detach while in the relationship though?
100%. That's generally a woman thing though. Like I was with Paul, I mean, I left him emotionally probably 2 or 3 years before I left him physically.
Yeah. Because I
So
do feel like
yes, I
there's
do.
a part of me,
It's possible. Yes.
I feel like there's a part of me that knew this last time that I was there to make sure I never went back again.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, because we were so off and on and it was like, yeah,
Well, that's what happened with Jordan was last year I was dating this guy and that's not his real name, but that's what we're going to call him. Um, we were on for 2.5 months. I sabotaged it. And then we were off for a few months and then we went back on for a little while and then we were back off. But when I came back to San Diego, um,
I literally drove into his house. The next 6 hours later, 10 hours later, we drove out to Arizona and we spent the weekend together, like 4 days. And that had to happen because I was still holding on. Like him and I were doing this ping pong thing, and I wasn't able to let him go because of that ping ponging. And this trip, I had committed to being wide open, fully 100% who I am. And when I tell you, when you heal the thing that attracted you to that, and then you go back to, you go around that person, you're literally going to feel sick. And I was sick that whole trip. Like it was so disgusting to me. I could not wait to get out of his Jeep and into my car and away from him and never speak to him again. And we have never spoken since. But I think both of us needed to get to that point to let go of each other. And that was another karmic relationship. But it was wild. I was like, damn, I really needed it to be this bad in order to be like, no. But I'd also done a lot of work from the last time that we had connected, physically anyway. And over the phone, it was one way, but as soon as we got in person, I was like, no, we're done.
Yeah. I could still, there is a part of me that can still see a future with this particular individual, but
Really?
it's just a very different version of him. Again, it's so, that's what's so hard is
Well,
when you
and you
see
could
them
find that
show up
version, right?
and you,
We're multidimensional. He could show up as that
yeah.
version,
Oh,
and
he can, and
he could
but
step into that.
that's the piece that's so
Hard.
mind-boggling, I guess, is like I know he can because that's who he was when we met.
Yeah.
And he was that way consistently, even if it was only 60 to 90 days. But then I would see glimmers and I would see glimmers and I would see glimmers, and he'd step into it for a month and he'd step out. But like you already said this, right? Like both of you have to work on
Yeah.
yourselves. And
Because
I
an
don't,
avoidant and an anxious, I'm disorganized, but an avoidant and anxious are actually perfect, right? One's a receiver, whatever they plug into each other. If they're both doing the work, you can become secure.
you can, but the anxious avoidant is the one doing 99% of the work because the avoidant will avoid the work. And so as an anxious attachment, recovering, right? It's literally the anxious catering to their bullshit, drama, and trauma 99% of the time. Are they
Oh yeah,
catering to
I'm
us?
not doing that.
Yes, they absolutely are. But I mean, listen to like any of the attachment therapists out there. It falls over here. And it is. That they're going to trigger you. They're going to trigger you. They're going to trigger you, and you need to get over it. So if you are on the advanced spiritual path, data, data avoidant, data
Girl,
avoidant.
that's all I've ever dated is avoidance. I'm shit. I'm gonna
You're
leave
a
here
pro,
enlightened as fuck.
right? And that was it. It was like, yeah, it's hard, right? Because you start to identify these particular patterns. You start to identify when they're pulling away, and what do you want to do as an avoidant? You want to grab on and pull them in. You want to be like,
Yeah.
what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And
Yep.
that pushes them even further away. So every way that you want to be shown love, if you show it to them that way, it pushes them away,
But
and
that's
vice
exactly what
versa.
they need, though. They need that love. So, like with the guy that shattered my heart, all he's ever known is loss and pain.
Yeah,
And I was showing him the opposite of that, you know? And I was going to say
trap
something else.
though. It's a trap.
Well, yes and no. So here's the
To him,
difference.
that's not real.
This is another reason why I'm not convinced that he's fully an avoidant. And not that he doesn't have avoidant tendencies or he could have swung back into that wound. Every avoidant that I have dated has shown their red flags even before the 2 months. Oh, that's not that red. Oh, whatever. You give them passes because I have always fallen in love with potential, right? I've always fallen in love with potential. So what I did differently when I finally entered into the dating pool after my divorce was I said, I'm going to look at the reality, not the potential. I can still see their potential. That's never going to go anywhere. But I have to base my decision on this relationship based upon the reality. So even when I said I sabotaged that relationship, it wasn't really a sabotage. It was, but could it have been handled with communication? Most likely, but it would have ended anyway because he was a hardcore avoidant and he was an Aquarius. They're notoriously detached. So
Mhm.
the things that he were doing, the reason why I broke up with him was those were really big reality red flags that I did not align to. right? And so the fact that I went back and went back and went back it was that cycle of wanting to, I saw the potential and I got back, I got kind of pulled back into that cycle again. But the whole time I saw his reality. So with this latest guy, I got to think of, we're going to call him C.
Okay.
C, I based everything on his reality. I honestly did not, this was the first, this is going to, this trips me out even saying this out loud. This was the first one. Could I see a future with him? Yeah, but I didn't get wrapped up in that future because I was so enjoying the reality of the present moment and the reality of who he was portraying to be or showing me to be, based upon his actions. His actions always aligned with his words, all of those things. So he did not show the pattern. And I mean, every man I've dated has been avoidant. I did not see any of those patterns. I didn't see any of those things. And that's why I think this one has been the hardest for me to kind of get past, because I can't look back and go, it's this one thing other than the brain injury. Like that's the only thing that I can ever come back to, because he, where the other ones, yeah, they love bomb or they do those things sometimes. But most of the avoidance I've dated, again, they didn't do much. They didn't put barely any effort in at all. I was the one putting effort in. I was the one doing all the work, and they were just like, cool, I'm going to go for the ride. And that's what happened, where this was not that case. I don't know where I was going with that, other than I don't know where I was going with that.
I think it is. I think it's that, and I don't mean to be prejudiced, but to me, that's that cowboy mentality.
Yeah,
Almost that Lone Ranger. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it. So yes, is it 100% possible that it was the brain injury that switched him off? Yes, because he realized he could not do it any longer.
yeah.
Right? But is that the same pattern that an avoidant goes into? Yeah, it's the realization that energetically this is too exhausting and they don't have the capacity to continue
It's
as the person that they showed up as. So
it's
it could definitely be.
crazy to me how we feel the moment the moment a man pulls away, I feel it. Do you feel it too? The moment, like the moment where they're like, literally, I could be doing something and I'll be like, oh, they just turn that switch off and turn the other direction.
I could with everyone but this last one.
Really?
And I think that's what also, like, if I'm being humiliatingly transparent, that's what fucked my nervous system up so bad. Is it really was dealing with Jekyll and Hyde. It really was safe, not safe, safe, not safe, safe, not safe, safe. And so I was never staying in one long enough to quote unquote trust. And so I started to become disconnected with myself, because I think, okay, maybe I'm being hormonal, or maybe I'm being
Right.
crazy. Maybe I made up this piece, because it would. And he would come back and I would ask questions, and I was trying again to cater to this avoidant wound. So you don't really confront them in the moment, right? You kind of sit back and you try and bring it up within 24 hours in a gentle way where you can kind of understand why they're doing it. But then add in the neurodivergence, and he would gaslight me. I don't think he even realized. Maybe he did realize. Maybe he's a genius. But he would gaslight me and be like, that's not how it happened. And again, I have the memory of a steel trap. Like, I remember many conversations word for word.
Yeah.
And so I'd be like, no, that's absolutely how it happened. And he's like, well, you're misinterpreting it. And then it would always go back to my tone. I don't remember where I was going with this. But yes, typically, like with the previous guy, I could feel we were cuddling and I could feel him choose in that moment that he needed to end things. And while he didn't do it verbally, energetically, I felt it and I was devastated for like 30 seconds. Then I was like, oh, I realize what's happening. But with him, it was such a push and pull that I was always so frazzled that I could never tell. Could I identify the patterns on a logical level? Absolutely. Right. But then could I try and Neville Goddard and hold out and be like, I just need to stay high vibe? And would he show up again? Yeah. Would he continue to be like the dream guy? Yeah, for a week or so. Right. And so on a like spiritual level, it could be, okay, Kristine, well, this was an absolute test, right?
Yeah.
This was, can you hold that frequency, even when the outside reality is showing you something different. But my logical brain was fully intact. And it was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before, right? Same thing. You're going to your mother's, you're going to come back and you're going to pull away. I expect this. And then what happens on a subconscious level? Now I'm showing up expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I guess the short answer is yes. Usually I can feel it. This last time though, I let this whole thing consume me so much that I didn't know up from down. Ugh.
Same. Let me ask you another question, because this thought crossed my mind yesterday. If you met somebody who said all the right things, did all the right things, it was super easy, would you be attracted to that and go into it? Because I had a situation where I've had that in the past where I've met somebody and they've said all the right things and they've done everything. And I was like, this is too easy. And I wasn't that into it. And I was thinking about that yesterday for why, I don't know. But I thought maybe there's a part of me, not necessarily that it's not about the chase, but I like the challenge. And maybe that's why I prefer to date men who are not in my industry or not at my level of awareness. One, it grounds me a little bit, but two, maybe there's a part of me that likes the challenge. And when something is too easy, but then at the same time, I'm going to throw a wrench in it here and go, I'm the one who's too easy. I'm the one who makes, when I go into and I can admit this, when I go into a relationship, my love language is acts of service. I want your life to be easy because in my world, the perfect world, I make your life easy, you make mine easy. Like we're there to help each other. Now, was it always going to be that way? Of course not. But I want someone who's going to make things easy. So I make things easy for men. And I am someone, I fucking hate the game. I think the game is bullshit. I don't
Mhm.
want to fucking play it anymore. And I say that, and then this happens yesterday, and I was like, maybe I do like the game. I don't know. It's just something that I'm in contemplation with because I'm like, maybe this is why I make things so easy. And guys are like, that's not, I need a challenge because some men are programmed. We have to work hard for what we get.
So there's scientific research behind how a man falls in love, right? And he does need to kind of be a problem solver. He does
Is it you're
need to,
talking about like vasopressin where they're stressed
yep,
out?
yeah. Um, so there, I do actually believe in part of that. The idea of someone showing up and just like wanting to make everything easy right away, where I'm at right now is it has to be a slow burn. I'd be cautiously optimistic, but again, I would be watching that calendar. Where are you at in 120 days, right?
Yeah,
I am
I'm the
not
same way.
going to commit until I know we're past that 90-day mark and that you really are who you're showing up as. And I really like to see the shadow. My ex-husband, he is so even keeled. Nothing gets to this man. Nothing. It was years in our marriage before I'd ever even seen him yell. And he wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling at a neighbor who was being a complete asshole and lighting off fireworks in his backyard and almost burnt down our house.
Oh, that's
Right.
nice.
But then I was like, oh, he can get mad. This is sexy. Like, right. I want to see the dark side of a man. Um,
It's
and I
important
want
to see the dark side of a man. You don't want to be blindsided by a dark side of anybody.
no. I want to know that he has the beast tamed.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've had to learn the hard way is we all have vices, we all have addictions. And again, doesn't mean drugs, doesn't mean sex, but like we have our coping mechanisms. And I want to know what those coping mechanisms are to make sure they can fit in with the lifestyle that I live and the life that
Yeah.
I desire. So I would be open to it, but there has to be that chemical spark too. If the chemical spark isn't there, I'm not going to waste time.
Do you think that that can develop though
No,
through emotional connection?
no. And maybe it's not a chemical spark. I'm calling it chemical from the third dimensional level. It's the soul identification.
I have to be drawn to them.
Yes.
If I'm
I,
not drawn to you, it's not going to work at all.
yeah.
Now, again, some of these men are not normally what I would go for. They're not normally what I would like looks wise or otherwise. You know, some of them have been definitely Jordan was not one. But when I looked into his eyes, I felt the soul connection and I was very drawn to him.
Yeah. Well, you saw the last guy I dated.
Yeah.
Aesthetically speaking, he's not necessarily what I would go for,
Yeah.
right? But it was his eyes. It was,
I think we're moving past that where it's all about looks. Now, do I feel like you have to have some attraction? Yes. But I think we're moving past that level of our thing.
I
But
think
you
we
know,
are, but I also feel like that's also very much conditioned into us through society is the idea that we're not going to find an attractive man, right?
that's true. It
And
has all
so,
the traits that we want and also can be hot.
yeah, so I cringe at that. I'm past it because I know, yes, will looks fade? Yeah. Will
Yeah,
people come in
absolutely.
stress times and gain 20 pounds? Yes. Exhibit A, right? But is it the dedication there to be in the healthiest body?
Yeah.
Right? That's very important to me because I expect to live a very long life. And yeah, that was my ex-husband. He had multiple people tell him, like, this isn't the exact wording, but that you are going to live an astoundingly long life and you are pretty much invincible.
Yeah.
And you are meant to protect this woman at all costs. So that's like a very delusional non-negotiable that I have is like, yeah, the guy does have to actually be physically attractive because I need to know that he's going to fuel this vehicle. And I mean his vehicle, but I also mean mine.
Yeah,
And
you take care of you for me and I'll take care of me for you.
yeah, where the
Or
last
for
one,
me too, you
Whataburger
know.
was his favorite place, right? And his favorite restaurants were places that I would probably die walking through the door. There's that much gluten in the air, right? And it's okay for him to enjoy those things, but
Yeah.
there also has to be that piece where it's like, okay, I'm gonna meet you halfway, right? If I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna grab my food and then I'm gonna stop here and grab you something.
Right.
That
Exactly.
was that was the piece that was missing. Was it really he had this kind of like, you take care of you and I'll take care of me, but he wasn't taking care of him,
Yeah.
which is honestly, I like that I'm wearing red today since we're just talking about so many red flags.
So check this out. So I was dating this guy and we were talking, we had magical conversation. Click, 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 click. Let's meet right away. We met. Awesome. I sat down at the table. I had deja vu. Not with the place, with a man.
Yes.
Now, I've never had deja vu with a person ever. And I know deja vu is a good sign. It's showing me I'm on the right path. You know, you're crossing over, you know, that thread that runs. And I've had deja vu plenty of times, just never with a person. So I literally sat down and in my head, I'm asking myself, oh, have I dated this man before and forgot? Did he forget me? Like, or like, what is like literally, this is, he's talking to me and my head is like, what did we date? We've dated this guy before. So anyway, it was a first meeting hour, whatever, we leave. Um, he's like, come spend the weekend at my house. And now I'm on the slow burn too. So we didn't sleep together, you know, barely even made out, whatever. Very slow, taking it steady. But I did sleep in the same bed as him. Now he has made references, and I knew that day that he was an avoidant, but he had made references to like, this is your office. And like, would you be like in the future, would you be okay like being stay-at-home wife and you could still do your little thing and whatever, blah, blah, blah. You could tell. And then he kept saying, like, don't put the cart before the horse. He'd like kind of back himself out of it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, Friday night, we have a good time. We go to bed. Obviously, we're sleeping in the same bed. I traveled into the reality where him and I are married. And this like you're running timelines inside of this lifetime, right? So we can
Yeah.
shift and move that. Yeah. To the point to where it was when I say it was so vivid, like I was awake in the dream, like almost lucid, to where I was like, this is our life. Like I saw our entire life. And then I woke up in the bed that I was dreaming of sleeping in the bed, and was like, and he was awake, and he was, this is the middle of the night, and he was looking at me. Apparently he had gotten up to eat a sandwich, which I think is so weird. But anyway, he's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I got up and I took some Advil and I laid back down. And the whole mess of the morning, he knew too. He knew something was up. He's like, "Are you okay? You're really quiet." Yeah, I'm fine. The whole morning, I'm just going over it in my head because it was so real. And I'm like, did we come together to heal something and then it's going to go away? But our life was so good. Our marriage was so good. I was like, what the fuck did we heal? What did we have to come together for? I don't understand.
I see that with almost every person I sit down to a dinner table with.
You have deja vu or have that feeling every person?
Yeah. So one of the gifts that I was given very early on was pretty much seeing people's darkest past life. And almost always I can see where we met in that past life. Very rarely is it where I haven't ran into them in another dimension.
Yeah, I mean, I have that. So I've had that experience. Again, the first guy, even with Paul, like I've had it where I know we've had past lives together, right? I know.
Mhm.
This was different. I can't
Yeah.
articulate it other than the deja vu was like, I know in this life, there's a reality in this lifetime. There's a timeline in this lifetime where him and I are married.
So my understanding of deja vu is typically that there's so many different dimensions where this has happened.
Yeah.
That's why we get that feeling. Like millions on millions,
But they
right?
also say that deja vu is a good sign. Like it means
Yes.
you're
It's an
on the right
intersection
path.
of the path.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So, and that's how I felt with the last one. Was I full blown saw our lives in the 1920s, but then I saw it today. I saw it mm, probably 40 years from now, right? In this world, on our porch.
This is what I'm telling you. This was not. So when I see a past life, or what we're going to call a past life, because there's really no such thing,
Yeah.
I'll see it. So I have tells. I'll see it through the lens of rust. It's almost like a rust color.
Okay.
Everything I see will kind of be in a rust color. And that's my cue that this is what we would consider a past life, right?
Yeah.
This was not that. This was, this was right now, just in another timeline.
Yes.
It like this, like I was still, I looked very much like me. He looked, the house was the same,
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
but it was just another timeline. And I'm like, I've experienced a lot of time, like going into other timelines, whatever. I've never had it in this way, and it still boggles my mind. I'm still a little tripped out by it because I'm like, well, I need to I'm an investigator. I'm like, I need to understand why. I need to figure this out. I need to.
It's a choice store, though.
Yes, and interestingly enough, the next night, I think I scared him, and which is fine, because after that, like we've kind of he's pulled away, you know, but but even in that, like I'm it's like whatever. We're still talking, but I'm like waiting for him to be like, I'm not chasing him. I'm not going after him. I'm just like, I'm not going to double text you. I'm not going to do anything, things like I'm not doing it. And so anyway, I'm just trying to, in my mind though, I'm like, what? I know a reason, season, lifetime, but I'm like, this wasn't a dark life. This wasn't a bad experience. It's not something where I know like we came here to heal this. I'm like, is it a glimpse of what could be? If that's the case, like I would love to have that life. So I was
Yes.
like, I don't understand. I am still trying to understand the point of this interaction.
A choice store.
Go on.
So, a choice store is where there is a subconscious part of you that truly does desire this end result. So much so that it's going to pull it into consciousness, pull it into awareness, so that you can have an emotional reaction to it. Now, the emotional reaction can absolutely be fear, because oftentimes we have subconscious patterns and thoughts that need to leave in order for this reality to be realized. And so, this is almost kind of like a little hack, but it's saying, hey, this is here. Is there a part of you that's conscious that desires this? And if it is, We can gain feeling off it, which could be the confidence that this is the right relationship, or the desire, and desire being the strongest piece when it comes to manifestation, of stepping into that and knowing that, yeah, I am actually safe waiting for him to call. I do know
Yeah.
that he desires me, right? And all those pieces. And so, not to keep talking about a dead horse or beating him, but I know wholeheartedly that the last one loves me and is in love with me, right? Did I believe in the reality, future, present moment pieces that I was given? No. On a conscious level, I chose not to.
Yeah.
So for you, and this is just my interpretation, right? Like, fuck me, I could be so wrong. But it is a part of you. It is your higher self going, yeah, this can be it. Do you want this to be it?
Well,
Is
it's
it?
interesting that you say that because that's exactly what I've been saying is I want to live in the country in a quiet, calm, settled place. I want farm animals. He didn't have them, but he took me to his friends who did,
Okay.
right? I want certain things. He exhibited those things. I don't necessarily want, I'm never going to stop making my own money. Don't get me wrong. I'm never going to not make money and be financially dependent on a man. But he wanted to be like, he was portraying a person who wanted to be that financial support, that physical support, that whatever.
Yeah.
So I was getting a glimpse just in being with him, but then to fully see our life as married to the point to where I couldn't remember if it was real or the dream that we were walking in past that office where when I first walked in and he told me to taking me to his bedroom to put my bag down. He's like, and this is your office. I mean, that's what he said, right? So we're walking by that same office, and I can't remember, is this the dream or did this happen before I went to sleep? Because that's how real it was. I couldn't tell reality apart
Mhm.
from this other reality or this other timeline where I'm walking and he called me his wife. And I remember saying, what did you call me? I didn't turn around. I was walking and I remember my brain being perplexed and going, wait, what did you call me? He said, you're my wife. And that's when I woke up and I was like, but I remember you dream in reverse, right? So I'd already seen our whole entire life before that. But when I woke up the whole next morning, I'm like, did we drink too much and he called me his wife or something? Like, was this a memory and I don't remember it? Like, I wasn't like, it wasn't like that. So I don't understand. Like, I was like, my wheels were I didn't surprise there wasn't smoke coming out of my ears because I was like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
It's a choose your own adventure book in reverse. You just
Yeah.
decided to go back to this page, right?
And there are things about him that I'm not on board with, that are flags for me that I would not be okay with. Is there a lot of them? No, there's a very few of them. But at the same but there was also a lot that I was like, this is exactly what I've been asking for. But again, it started out really gung ho. Like we had to talk all the time. We had to text all the time. I can't wait to see you. And then after we spent those 2 days together, it was like, now we're barely talking on the phone. We're barely texting. And I'm just not doing anything about it.
Good.
And I, I just, I'm in a space right now where I don't believe in dating one person. Now, if you start sleeping with somebody, that's a different story. I believe in you sleeping with one, in my opinion. I don't care what you guys all do, but I'm going to sleep with one person. I'm not going to date other people if I'm sleeping with somebody.
Mhm.
But, and I mean, like having, obviously having sex with somebody, not just sleeping in their bed. But if I'm not doing that, I think I am free and you have not asked me to be your girlfriend and you have not, I'm going to talk and date to other people.
Yeah.
I'm free. I'm free agent. Period. And he did say he wanted to take it slow. And I also said, what scared him, I know this is what scared him. I said, um, I misspoke. I said, I like going fast. And I said, it's who I am. I've always done it that way. And that part is true. I have every relationship I've been in has gone from 0 to 100 very fast. I'm a very intense person. I blame it on my Scorpio energy, whatever. It's an excuse probably, but that's okay. But the next day when we talked, he said, I want to reiterate that I want to go slow. And I said, let me just, and he repeated what I said. And I said, I can tell you I misspoke. I didn't mean it that way. What I should have said was, this is how it's always been. And I don't want it to be this way again. I want to take it slow. But I did say, you're going to have to be patient with me because that's new for me. And he said the same thing because he's always gone fast and he doesn't want to do it that way. And he asked me to be patient with him. I said, well, you're going to have to be patient with me too. You know, we're navigating new territory. So I am giving him grace, but I can tell you, energetically, I can feel he detached.
I think that's a healthy place to be in. Anxious attachments, we have a tendency of wanting things now. We want it now. We want it now. We want it now.
Yeah.
We want the validation because of betrayal and abandonment, because we've been promising so many times that haven't happened, right? So from my perspective, and I'm projecting onto you, is the idea that like, I want it to be fast because I want to know he's in. I want to know he's all in, right?
Right.
I want the phone call. I want the ring. I want it all. When in fact, a secure attachment is, yeah, it's going to be, we're going to do this slow burn, right?
Well, and I'm disorganized. So when guys come at me hard and fast, I tend to run the other way.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I'm like, finally, someone's treating me the way I deserve.
Well, no, and what I mean was like I saw this video of this chick and she's like, you could be hot, you could even be out of my league, but if you're not obsessed with me, then I'm like, ugh. But then again, if you're too obsessed with me, I'm like, ugh. And I was like, that's exactly me. Like
And that's where,
if you are too overbearing in the beginning, and I've had this, like a guy on the second date was trying to tell me he loved me. I was like, no, bro. I believe in love at first sight, but there ain't no way. No. And it ended real fast because I was like, I gotta go.
see, the last one, that's what it was it was gifts, it was this, it was that, it was constant calls, it was constant text, to the point I was irritated. But I was like, obviously he's obsessed with me because I'm worth being obsessed over.
Oh, I
Right.
want to be obsessed over too.
And then it was when he yanked it back and I was like, why aren't you obsessed with me?
Right.
Why are you suddenly busy at work?
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't like, okay, 6 hours. It was like he would go 24 to 48 hours and not call.
You're never too fucking busy. I hate that guy. When people say that to me, I'm so busy. You're never too busy. I'm sorry.
I think on rare occasion,
we all live on our phone. There's no
on
way
rare
we're too busy.
occasion, you can have that moment.
Yes.
You can have that 24 hours, but you can also plan ahead and be like, hey, I overcommitted myself and I'm volunteering here and I'm working this job and I'm doing this. I'm probably not going to be able to talk with you, but this is when I'm going to try and call.
Yeah, that's
Right?
called communication.
What is that? What is that?
I don't know, because I don't think any men know about that. Because I could be like, it's okay. Like if you're super busy, there's days like when this guy was messaging me all the time and calling me all the time. I was a writing day for me. When I'm writing, I turn my phone on do not disturb, which lives there most of the time anyway. But he was already on my breakthrough list. And I said, listen, I'm writing, so I'm going to be in a zone. So like, can we talk later? You know? And so that's called communication.
Yeah.
So when all of a sudden you stop communicating and you're just all of a sudden busy for hours, I'm like, no, you're just not that into it. And that's okay. Just fucking say it already though.
Yeah.
So anyway, with this guy, I have, I'm still communicating with him and still kind of letting things just ride. But I'm even in the beginning of just talking. And again, this is part trauma response too. I over communicate. Like, hey, I'm going to be busy for the next 6 hours, or the next 3 hours I'm going to be in meetings. And I do that because I know what it feels like to sit and go, did they get the message? Are they just not going to respond? And so I think that there's integrity or respect, probably respect is probably a better word, in being like, hey, I'm not ignoring you. I know I'm going to be unavailable to answer my phone, and it's just a rarity. And my dating profile is so clear, like so clear. But I think a lot of people think they're emotionally intelligent or think they know how to communicate. And then they meet me or someone else and they're like, no. And I've told this. In fact, I told this to the last guy. I said, a lot of men are attracted to me. I said, I know I'm not ugly. And then they meet me in person or they get on the phone with me and they realize real quickly that I'm not just some dumb blonde.
Mm-hmm.
and that they have, like they have a whole threshold they got to reach. Like I'm going to come in with depth. I'm a deep person and I'm smart and I'm all these other things. And I burst their bubble of
Mhm.
whatever expectation they had of how this was going to go. So they're all gung ho. And then we get in the energy. That's why I said being in the energy with someone in person is so important. And then it's like pop. And I'm like, oh, the bubble popped. All right, let's go. We'll move on. Next one. Next.
I think that's the hallmark of an avoidant, though,
Uh-huh.
too. But I also think, and I believe you're in the same line of thought on this one, right? Everything is us pushed out. So if poor communication is coming up, more than likely, at least in my experience, I'm ignoring internal communication. I'm ignoring the signs. I'm ignoring my intuition, driving towards something that I'm just not meant for. And that's not just romantic, right? That can be in career, that can be
Yeah.
in health, that can be in everything, right? There's like Sheila Jeet is an example. It's just like one more superfood on the list, right? And so you start to believe all of the verbiage that's out there, all of the studies that are out there, and maybe your body's like, nope, actually, I got a good one for you. I'm going to tell a toilet story. Bacopa is an amazing herb. What it does, I don't remember. I could probably look it up really quick, and actually, I will.
What's it called?
Bacopa.
Macopa.
Cacop.
Oh, Ecopa.
No, Bacopa.
Bacopa. It's a hard word to
Bacopa
understand.
benefits. Let's see. Many clinical studies demonstrate improvement in verbal learning, delayed word recall, memory acquisition, and anxiety reduction with Bacopa. So yeah, this is an herb that I was prescribed by a healer when I was healing from my brain injury. It says Bacopa can be used on its own or in combination with other nootropic herbs such as gotu kola. So you do all this body testing, you do all this muscle testing, right? But then sometimes you get home and you have these herbs and you spent a fortune on them and you just have this feeling like it's not right.
Yeah.
This thing put me on the toilet for days.
Yikes.
It was the most horrifying, cleansing, whatever it was. And it was doing its job. It probably found the anxiety in my body and was like, we got this is an all you can eat buffet of anxiety. Let's just pull this out. It my we I went off it. I tried to go on it again with a supportive herb. I went off it. Like we kept trying. And it was just like at one point or another, you have to say, okay, internally, I knew this wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
And so tying back into communication and the idea, did you notice when poor communication was happening in a relationship or there were misunderstandings? Was there an internal misunderstanding happening?
I mean, has that happened? Yeah. I think more recently in the people that I've been calling in, it's more of a boundaries situation, like in, okay, you're going to be presented with this again. Are you going to choose this? Are you going to choose this because you think someone's choosing you? Or are you going to choose you and say, hey, this doesn't work for me, or call it out? And that's what I've had to do is I've had to be like, hey, like this is what I feel is going on, or this is what I'm feeling, and just
Yes.
and bringing the communication to the forefront. And just like with this gentleman that I stayed the weekend with, um, something had happened and his facial expression, he didn't say anything, but his facial, your facial expression can say so much. I don't have a poker face. My face is going to tell you what's going on before my mouth does. And so the next morning I said, did I make you uncomfortable? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay. And then later that night, he was like, why did you ask me that? And I was like, well, I have a tendency to overthink and create stories. So I saw a facial expression. My mind will go immediately to create its own narrative. And so to combat that, I prefer communication and just ask, So I am being more communicative about my emotions, about how I am and how I perceive things. And so if I meet somebody who's not communicating, to me, it's a test in a way. Like, hey, are you gonna continue? Are you gonna keep going and not allowing them, even though they're not communicating to you, or are you gonna do something about it?
Yeah.
Are you gonna communicate about the communication?
Yeah.
Tongue twist that shit. So I agree. And I always tell people that too. It's either a reflection of something that you're doing or not doing that you need to see for yourself, or it's a test. Are you
Yeah.
going to continue to accept this?
Yeah.
But I have had both. I definitely have had both. Like with the first one, that breakup, I call it sabotage. It really wasn't. It was, I already knew, because the night that the first thing happened that really was like, this is not it for me. I was already scrolling on my dating app while he was sleeping. I mean,
Oh,
I knew. And when I left, I knew. And I kept going. So right then I wasn't listening. So of course it came to a head and blew up, right?
yeah.
Because I wasn't listening to my gut. I was rationalizing it. And so, yeah, I've had both. I've had both. But again, this is why, to bring it back, to the major point is, as challenging as dating is and as much heartbreak as I've experienced, it's amazing to me how wide open my heart still is,
Yeah.
and how much I still believe in the fairy tale and still believe in love. Don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I go inward and I don't want, my heart's not open, and I'm healing, right? That's healthy. But I think about it all the time. I'm like, God, it is a rarity, I think, and it is an astounding quality in a woman or in a man, but especially for women who have been through hell and back over and over and over again, and who are still standing, resilient as fuck, with their hearts wide open, ready to be loyal and loving to a man. And it isn't just, I'm talking about romantic hell. I mean, when I look at myself, my abuse started as a child, as a little child. I was 3 years old. And it never stopped. Honestly, the heartbreak, the pain, the abuse, it never stopped. And yet I still will get back up with a wide open heart and love you like I have never been hurt in my life.
Mhm.
And I think that women like us that do that are fucking rare and are special and should be treated as such.
I like that. Amen.
And
Absolutely.
it's also empowering for me to even say that out loud or admit that on a podcast, because it is draining, it is exhausting, it is defeating at times, but it also kind of makes me feel grateful and proud of my resilience. Though I never want it applauded, because we never should have had to be resilient in the first place, you know?
I think that's what makes us real, though. And I agree. But I think in relationships, even if you don't want to play games, there are quote unquote tests,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there was this one, I think it was like a reel, where a mom was saying, you want to find the man that can stand with you during your parents' death.
Yeah, that's the same one I saw. It's like, that's how you'll know if you'll marry them, is if you know that they will support you through the death of a parent.
Yeah. And so I feel like we go through these little hiccups and things to show the weakness in the other person, to go, is this really what I want? Right. And then to ask yourself, even if it's, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to be delusional, if it's 97% of what I want, right? Is that other three, can I live without it? Or is
Yeah.
that actually what I desire? And is it time to switch and go in a different direction?
Yeah.
Right. There's
'Cause
the idea.
that 3% could be a very big 3%.
It could, and it might not, right? Do I believe that we can hit 100%? I actually do, right? But there's other pieces showing, like, if they're 80% of what you want and the other 20 really is constantly evolving and changing, because like you've said so many times, we get what we want, we realize there's something different.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick through it. Are they
Yeah.
going to stick through it? Or are they going to be like, you know what? She's 44 and I can go get a mindless 24-year-old, which, let's be honest, like the 24-year-olds and the 22-year-olds today, they're not falling for that shit either. this generation of women they are fierce and they are amazing. And I'm just so proud of what I'm seeing from them. So I think we're going to see that little wave dip. But I do want to say my heart is open, but there is a bulldog.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not gonna.
It is around the
There's
perimeter right now. I am open to
yeah.
dating, but I'm definitely, yeah, this energy is not a seeking energy. This energy is literally
Prove it. I'm in the prove it energy too.
it's hunt me. It is
Yeah.
literally hunt me.
Yeah.
It is study me, show up, put out my favorite treats, right? Set up the trap, and then ask me on the date.
Yeah.
Like show up with a gift first. Yeah.
Yeah. If C was to come back, I think it'd have to be a very big grand gesture just to get my attention. Just because he's gonna be him. It's gonna be
They
it's
always come back.
it's
They
it will
always
have to humble him. He will be humbled. He will have to be humbled in order to come back because he's gonna have to face his humility.
ego
But
death.
but it's gonna have to be some type of grand gesture because it's not gonna be a text or a phone call that's gonna get it back. There's
Grand
no way.
gestures are the only way to go, though. And
Yeah.
maybe it is movie conditioning, but I expect the speaker being held
Say
up,
something. Do that
right?
movie with John
Say
Cusack with the
anything.
radio.
Yeah.
Hell, that's what I want, bro. You stand outside my window, serenade me.
Yeah. At this point where I am with the ex I mean, yeah, I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to put out the expectation.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we say grand gesture is minimizing what would have to happen. Like
Oh yeah.
it has to be so all in based on the time that we've spent together. And there's no tiny gestures that will,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's why my heart is free. And I know the right man will find joy in making things happen and planning.
I think so. I'm talking to a few men right now that are on the dating apps. I think if they all fall through, I think I might turn it off for a little while again. And I go through these phases. I'll turn it off for like 4 or 5 months at a time and just focus on meeting friends and getting out into the community and seeing if that does happen. If just being and they magnetically show up, or C comes back, which not sure if I want that or not, but
Time to communicate energetically and not through a profile. Yeah.
yeah.
For me.
I
And
don't
it's
regret it
difficult.
though. Like I said, I've learned so much about myself in this process. Because again, we think we know what we want and then we get it and we're like, not it. So close. Not it. And I think I was like, oh God, you were right there. No,
Almost.
almost
Almost.
so close. What is it? Is oh my God, what is that State Farm commercial or something where he's got the dollar bill on the
Oh, you almost got it.
almost got it. You almost got it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ah, but yeah, I'll say one more thing about this the whole thing we talked about the parent. That when I heard the woman say that quote about, she was talking to her daughter in the video or something like that, where she's like, the way that's your person, or you should marry that person is if they get you through the death of the parent. I wish I would have heard that before I married Paul. Because when my grandmother died, we were not married yet. I'd only lived with him for 2 months. I had left everything 2 months ago, and my grandma was like my mom. She was the closest thing to a mom that I had, and he was not there for me. And that was a big issue for me. And then it only got worse when my father died. And that was a big, most people who follow me know that what a big blow that was for me. But if I would have heard that, there's no way I would have married him.
Really.
Not a chance in hell, because it was so obvious how emotionally unavailable he was. And he'll admit it to this day. He is afraid of conflict, and he is in order to be emotionally available, you have to be available to your own emotions. And he's not. He just doesn't, he represses them, pushes them away, distracts, he don't do anything. And as soon as one of us is emotional, whether it's his girlfriend or me or one of the kids, he's immediately, let me fix it, let me stop crying, stop whatever, you know? So I would not have. But everything happens for a reason. And I don't regret that marriage because I learned and grew and evolved ridiculously through the pain of that time and space. So in the end of the day, you know, this is why it's important to get back up and realize that it's never you. It's not, I can't, okay, you always play a part, don't get me wrong. But it goes back to that, you know, saying that we say all the time. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to learn from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think on a worldwide stage, we're all going through that on a grand scale, grief and pain of what we're witnessing and what we need to learn from it and who we want to be. And then on the micro scale, we see that in our relationships. Just to kind of tie it all together with a pretty little bow.
I love it.
I don't know about you, but I would love to hear people's comments about these episodes.
Yes. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Because it'll just spark. We'll be back together many times this season. I'm sure. Because her and I could probably sit and talk for 12 hours straight about random things.
We go from conspiracy theories to romance, which is a conspiracy theory. I love it.
It's all connected. It's all connected. But anyway, thank you for being my co-host during this series. And I'm so excited for the next time we come together.
You too.
All right, guys, I will see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.